Welcome to the module on development administration, concept, evolution and historical perspective. Learning objectives of this module. Learning objective of this module is to provide a basic understanding to the learner about the concept of development administration. The module will bring the learner an understanding about the evolution and historical perspective of development administration. And finally, in this module, learner will understand the features of development administration. Development administration is an inclusive approach to development, the ultimate goal of which is the general welfare of people and the process of nation building. The main concern of development administration is to design and administer development programs geared to the task of achieving certain clear-cut specific objectives and goals. According to Harry Ferdinand, development administration means the implementation of programs designed to bring about modernity, that is socio-economic progress and nation building, and the changes within an administrative system which increase its capacity to implement such programs. According to the definition of Han Bentley, development administration is involved in managing a government or an agency so that it acquires a capacity to adapt to and act upon new and continuing social changes with a view to achieve sustained growth. According to Hope, development administration is a special segment of public administration which exhibits distinctive orientations in terms of objectives, functions, time dimensions, structural components and behavioral patterns. It is not about implementation of programs, but it is directly involved in promoting and facilitating institutional change in economic and social realms. Development administration is a change oriented and goal oriented form of administration. According to Arora and S. Sharma, development administration is characterized by innovations, planned strategies, flexible organizational formalities, increased personal motivation, client orientation, greater participation of the people and social inclusion. The development administration is about projects, programs, policies and ideas which are focused in on socio-economic and socio-political development of a nation carried out by talented and skilled bureaucrats. Now, we are going to discuss about the brief history of development administration. After World War II, the newly formed independent nations faced problems and limitations such as poverty, illiteracy, diseases, low levels of agricultural and industrial productivity. They turned towards development administration for direction. Eminent scholars like Lucian, Freud and Wittner explain development administration as a process of guiding an organization towards the achievement of progressive political, economic and social objectives authoritatively determined in one manner or other. In other words, development administration is focused on nation building process, especially in the case of developing countries. If we discuss about the development administration history in India, we can see the development administration is closely associated with the governmental activities. When India achieved independence in 1947, our country faced problems like unemployment, poverty, illiteracy, hunger and various forms of diseases. India faced acute shortage in material and human resources, and our progress in primary and secondary sectors was also very minimal. It was the concern and responsibility of the state to initiate organized development through a complete planning process. India adopted the strategy of planned change in the process of development. Planning is a basic strategy of social reconstruction. Planning was used by government as a tool for social and economic growth of our nation. The government of India set up the Planning Commission of India in the year 1950 for the formulation, implementation and successful administration of the plans. The community development programs was introduced in India in the year 1952 to secure total development in the material and human resources of rural areas of this country and to develop local leadership and self-governing institutions. Community development program also focused on raising the standard of living of the rural population through means of speedy increase in food and agricultural produce. Democratic decentralization in India was based on the Balwant Rai Mehta Committee report, which suggested a three-tier system of Panchayati Raj in India. Later, the Ashok Mehta Committee was appointed by the government of India to suggest steps to strengthen the Panchayati Raj institutions. The 73rd and 74th Amendment Acts of the Constitution of India was a landmark in the history of local self-governance in India. Based on the 73rd Amendment of Act of Constitution of India, Panchayati Raj institutions were established in India with a three-tier system. The municipal bodies or the institutions were established in India based on the 74th Amendment Act of the Constitution of India. Another major initiative taken by Government of India in the area of development administration is the recent Niti Aayog. Niti Aayog, the National Institution for Transforming India, replaced the Planning Commission of India on 1st January 2015. According to Government of India, one of the functions of Niti Aayog is to evolve a shared vision of national development, priority sectors and strategies with the active involvement of states in the light of national objectives. Niti Aayog designs strategic and long-term policy and program frameworks and initiatives and monitors their progress and their efficiency. Development administration approaches in India. Following are the approaches followed in development administration in India. There are 5 approaches. The first approach is regional approach, second is area development approach, the third is target group approach, the fourth is minimum needs program approach, and finally people centered approach. Now, we are going to discuss about the features of development administration. A model of development administration must contain the following points. It should reject status quo and be directed towards change and more so towards results. It is result oriented and its core and every development function should have a definite objective. Planning is essential to decide the framework of the resources and time to be allocated for a development function. Innovation. It is dynamic in approach and encourages new and better ways to achieve objectives. It should focus on planning for the people as well as with the people. It is people centered and must empower society as a whole and not product or profit centered. The concept of development administration should be understood using two concepts. The first, administration for development and administrative development. Administration for development. Here, resources are scarce, material or human. Thus, the need to make optimum utilization of available resources is very important. So, administration of development involves objectives like innovation at all levels of planning, importance of development at grassroots level, development of human capital as a resource. Politics and administration must go hand in hand to establish a rapid change in society and bring about a just and distinct social order. Freedom of administrative machinery to express ideas for the most effective and efficient use of natural resources. And now, what is administrative development? In essence of the objectives of the administrative development, we can summarize it as building decision making capacities, development of skill and specialization to tackle complex issues in the personnel, giving importance to training, effective use of technology to bring about change in the administrative approach, increasing administrative capacity, capabilities and removing corruption and bringing in more accountability, creating leaders out of bureaucrats for the promotion of development initiatives. To achieve development goals, it is necessary that there is a proper planning, optimum utilization of the resources, skilled personnel is required and accountability in actions and words, self-reliance and emphasis on the technology. At the same time, we need to develop the bureaucracy, innovativeness, build capacities, integrity and decentralized decision making. Greater participation and cooperation of the people are key elements for the success of the development programs. According to Arora and Sharma, stress on participation in the development process facilitates substantially the process of program implementation. Participation helps in cultivating a favorable socio-psychological climate, in a development administrative organization that can in turn build up the institutional base for the development process. Now, we will discuss about the development administration and good governance. In the modern era, development administration is closely associated with the concept of good governance. According to the United Nations Task Team on post-2015 UN Development Agenda, governance refers to the exercise of political and administrative authority at all levels to manage a country's affairs. The process of governance consists of mechanisms, processes and institutions through which citizens and groups articulate their interests, exercise their legal rights and meet their obligations and mediate their differences. Good governance is a criterion of social and economic development. Yet, what constitutes good governance differs from one organization to another. Good government depends on an ability to exercise power and to make good decisions over time across a spectrum of economic, social, environmental and other areas. This is linked with government's capacity for knowledge, mediation, resource allocation, implementation and maintenance of key relationships. Good governance makes institutions and rules more effective and efficient. This will help in achieving equity, transparency, participation, responsiveness, accountability and the rule of law. In 1997, United Nations Development Program identified core characteristics of good governance as follows. The first is participation, second is rule of law, the third is transparency, fourth is responsiveness, the fifth is consensus orientation, the sixth is equity, the seventh is effectiveness and efficiency, the eighth is accountability and finally, the strategic vision. Good governance helps in accelerating the welfare of the people and protecting their interests. According to S.L. Goyal, the contents of development administration for good governance are the following. The first is openness in the sense of having wide contact with the people administered. Second, a sense of justice, fair play and impartiality in dealing with people and matters. The third is sensitivity and responsiveness to the needs, feelings and aspirations of the common people. The fourth is securing the honor and dignity of the human being, however humble he or she might be. The fifth is humility and simplicity in the persons manning the administrative machinery and its easy accessibility to every person. The sixth one is creating and sustaining an atmosphere conducive to development, growth and social change. And finally, honesty and integrity in thought and our action. These are the contents of a development administration. Development administration plays a major role in the development process of a country and functions in a fast growing environment in the contemporary world. The ultimate aim of development administration is the general welfare of the people, socio-economic development and nation building. However, rapid administrative reforms and ability of the bureaucracy to cope with change is an important factor for better development administration. Summing up this module, In this module, we learned about the concept of development administration. We also discussed about the evolution and historical perspective of development administration, and finally, the learner got an opportunity to understand the features of development administration. Thank you very much for attending this module.